In the heart of a prestigious university, where knowledge was supposed to be the great equalizer, a storm was brewing. A storm fueled by prejudice, ignorance, and the ugliest side of humanity. This is the story of a young woman who dared to dream, and the professor who tried to crush her spirit simply because of the color of her skin. Professor Harold Grayson was a man of authority, respected by many but feared by those who knew the darkness lurking beneath his polished exterior. He had built a reputation as a brilliant academic, but his brilliance was overshadowed by his deep-seated racism. And then there was Amara Johnson. Amara Johnson was the epitome of excellence. She was the top of her class, a shining star in the university's law program. Her assignments were meticulous, her arguments flawless, and her passion for justice undeniable. But to Professor Grayson, none of that mattered. All he saw was the color of her skin. Amara Johnson was the epitome of excellence. She was the top of her class, a shining star in the university's law program. Her assignments were meticulous, her arguments flawless, and her passion for justice undeniable. But to Professor Grayson, none of that mattered. All he saw was the color of her skin. Miss Johnson, do you really think you belong here? This university is no place for someone like you. Why don't you go back to Africa where you belong? The words hung in the air like a poison, suffocating the room. Amara's heart raced, but she stood her ground. She had faced racism before, but never so blatantly, never from someone in a position of power. Professor Grayson, I earned my place here. My work speaks for itself. My skin color doesn't define my intelligence or my worth. The professor's face twists in anger. He snatches Amara's books and assignments from her desk, scattering them across the floor. Professor Grayson, your work? Your work means nothing here. You don't belong in my classroom, in my university, or in this country. In that moment, Amara felt the weight of centuries of oppression bearing down on her. But she also felt something else, a fire, a determination to fight back. She would not let this man, or anyone else, strip her of her dignity. Amara knew that silence was not an option. She took her case to the university administration, demanding justice. But the road ahead would not be easy. Professor Grayson had allies, and the system was designed to protect people like him. Word of the incident spread like wildfire. Students organized protests demanding accountability. Social media erupted with support for Amara, and the story made national headlines. The university could no longer ignore the outcry. After a thorough investigation, Professor Grayson was suspended. But for Amara, this was only the beginning. She had exposed the rot within the system, but the fight for true equality was far from over. Amara Johnson graduated at the top of her class, a beacon of hope and resilience. Her story became a rallying cry for change, a reminder that no one should ever be silenced because of the color of their skin. In a world that often tries to dim their light, people like Amara remind us that courage knows no color. And though the battle against racism is far from over, every voice that rises in defiance brings us one step closer to a brighter, more just future.